Welcome back to The Full View. SABC News has verified allegations made earlier of a new COVID-19 variant and has found them unsubstantiated. To this now. As Chief Justice Raymond Zondo's less than 2-year stint as the head of the country's apex court is winding to an end, the Judicial Services Commission will this week interview the sole candidate in running to replace Chief Justice Zondo, that is Deputy Chief Justice Mandisa Maya. Researcher at Judges Matter, Mbekezeli Benjamin, joins me for more on this. Mbekezeli, good afternoon. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. How reminiscent of 2011 is this moment when there was only one candidate to be interviewed by the JSC, which at the time was, soon to then be Chief Justice Mogoeng. This time around, only one candidate. But this is not the first time this candidate is being interviewed for this particular position. Justice Maya Deputy Chief Justice Maya was interviewed in the last round of interviews for Chief Justice. She in fact scored higher than Chief Justice Zondo, but wasn't appointed as the Chief Justice. One can assume this is merely a formality.
Good afternoon, Oliver, and good afternoon to the viewers. It is far from being just a formality. The Judicial Service Commission plays a really important role when it comes to the appointment of the Chief Justice. They have to give the President advice on the suitability of the candidates or candidates that are nominated for Chief Justice. And that means that the JSC must scrutinize the candidates and their track record and determine whether the candidate is suitable for appointment. Now, we've been lucky so far in our recent history is that there hasn't been any serious cause for concern or any scandals that have come out when it comes to this process. So in future, though, we can't guarantee that it will be a smooth process. There might perhaps come a time when the JSC has to raise quite a serious concern with the President, and that would effectively mean the President can't appoint a candidate unless he or she would be acting irrationally. So the point is, this is a really important process. Yes, Justice Maya has previously been interviewed before by the JSC, particularly for the position of Chief Justice. And yes, she got a ringing endorsement for the appointment. But again, it is up to the President who he decides to be Chief Justice. You'll remember last time it was 4 candidates, and he could have appointed any one of those 4. The fact that he chose one over the one suggested by the JSC is neither here nor there. So luckily this time there's only one candidate, and we of course expect the JSC to be quite robust in asking her quite important questions on her suitability to be Chief Justice.
There is an aversion to have live matters being re-litigated, so to speak, when candidates are before the JSC. So oftentimes cases of public interest don't get touched on if they remain a live matter. But Chief Justice, Deputy Chief Justice Maya will be appearing on Tuesday, a day after the Constitutional Court would have handed down what is arguably its most controversially contested case in this term of the court, and that is the MK matter about the candidacy of President Zuma. Can we expect that matter to be touched upon by the commissioners on Tuesday?
Well, look, ideally, cases that have been litigated in the courts should not really form part of the discussions in the JSC, because at that point, the judge can neither change their position or they can really be interrogated too closely for why they decided to take a particular position. So ideally, you would want for the cases not to be form part of the interview. But of course, there are principles that can be discussed within the context of an interview, and in trying, for example, to understand the judicial philosophy of a particular candidate, you would ask them about how they view particular principles, how they would approach particular issues that come before the court, and generally understanding how they think. So I imagine that a similar exercise will be done on Tuesday with Justice Maya, but not particularly on this MK versus IAC case, but on the whole body of her jurisprudence over the last 20 years to show what kind of philosophy does she have and what approach does she have to constitutional issues.
Yeah, the last time Justice Maya appeared before the JSC, she spoke extensively about case load management and case role management in making the courts more efficient, leaning on her experience as Judge President of the Supreme Court of Appeal. She has sat on 28 hearings so far. She's written 3 unanimous judgments, has concurred in 5 of those judgments. So she's been pretty busy over the last 18 months. But she's, one would say, done well, given just how quickly the Constitutional Court has been able to turn around on urgent applications. The MK matter being one such urgent matter where the turnaround time has been lightning speed. Will that bode well for her scorecard this time around?
Yes, I think that is a point that she can walk into that interview as proudly one of the things that she's been able to achieve. A 9-day turnaround time is really unheard of at the Constitutional Court. And so it is something that she can boast about. But I think there are some serious questions that need to be asked about the efficiency of the Constitutional Court. And that is where she really must have concrete plans of how to improve the efficiency, because over the last little while, we've all seen how the Constitutional Court has struggled to finalize cases on time. It has taken a long time to deliver judgments, and that's partly because of structural issues, right? It has a very high caseload, very few judges to carry that caseload, and so we expect Justice Maya to speak about what concrete plans does she have to improve the efficiency of the Constitutional Court and other courts in the system, because recently we heard over 200 judgments have been outstanding for more than 6 months. That is a real concern, and she should also have plans of how to make the entire system more efficient.
And of course, there are vacancies at the Supreme Court of Appeal. Those 2 are being interviewed for before the JSC this week as well. It's important that we keep our eyes on that. As judges matters, what's your tracking around that? And are you hopeful that the right candidates will be appointed for those vacancies at the Supreme Court of Appeal?
Well, Oliver, we first need to understand the context. The Supreme Court of Appeal is an extremely important court in our system. It hears the appeals from all other courts. It does probably 5 to 10 times more work than that is done by the Constitutional Court. So you need very hard working judges there, very experienced judges. And over the last 5 to 10 years, I was counting the experience, judicial appellate experience that the SCA has lost is well over 200 years. So there's a desperate need for the JSC to fill the vacancies in the Supreme Court of Appeal. Currently, there are about 6 vacancies, and we as Judges Matter are saying that the JSC should fill them immediately tomorrow. Luckily, they are spoiled for choice. They have about 10 candidates. Most of them are excellent judges at the top of their game, and so it will be difficult for the JSC to pick any of those judges to be at the SCA. But we are saying, and we are firm about this, that the JSC must fill the positions tomorrow.
Mbekezeli, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Researcher at Judges Matter, Mbekezeli Benjamin.